got everything plugged in and that everyone can hear me. Good. Welcome everyone to another episode of Chasing Labels. This is episode number 152 or spy number 152, all depending on how you want to look at it. Here we go by spy numbers because we're going to be talking about movies here. For those of you who have not joined us here before, for the other 151 iterations in the past, I am your host, Andrew Cabral, and on this podcast, we go through the recent announcements in the world of boutique movies on home video, usually stuff that happened within the last 2 weeks or so, and it usually pertains to things that I'm interested in getting for my collection and that perhaps you're interested as well. I figured I would curate it to my liking. Maybe my liking is the same as yours, and if it's not, perhaps I could convince you on some things. Who knows? Who really knows? Buy whatever you want and whatever you can. That's one of my many mottos that I have. Just let me check up on things here. Make sure that I'm actually streaming. I always get concerned that perhaps the stream never takes and I'm just talking to nothing. That's a grand fear of mine constantly. Let me see here. So let me check on the YouTube. It looks like I am indeed streaming. All right. Let me make sure. Yeah, it looks like I am. So, without further ado, let me get into some things here. Before the show actually, before we actually get into things, let me talk about a few little things beforehand. First off, I guess starting off on a somber note, is that just recently, as of what, 2 days ago, less than 2 days ago, we lost the great Tony Todd. I'm sure many of you are familiar with Tony Todd's work. He's been working for many years in many fields, from movies and TV shows to animation to video games, all kinds of stuff. But he is most prominently known as Candyman. And I happen to have my Scream Factory Collector's Edition of Candyman right here. And I know that this movie has been released in 4K from both Scream Factory / Shout Factory, and it's gotten a Blu-ray as well as a 4K from Arrow Video as well. So I'm a little bit behind in terms of upgrading it. So I've got to get my hands on it. I've got to get my hands on either 4K. I'm debating now. I'm stuck in that vein of, do I upgrade straight from the Scream Factory Blu-ray to the Scream Factory 4K, or do I go switch to Arrow? Oh, good. So it looks like I am streaming. We do have a comment in from our good friend, Humboldt Horror Honey. Glad to have you here. Glad that you showed up. Always good to see you. And when I see a comment, at least I know someone is seeing this, and I'm not just talking into nothing or that it's not recording. So thank you for showing up, Humboldt Horror Honey. I was just talking a little bit about the passing of Tony Todd. And just how much how recognizable he was throughout all of his work that he's been doing for many years and decades. I also know that he does a lot of conventions, or was doing a lot of conventions, horror conventions and Comic Cons and things like that. So I know, I think he came. I don't know if he came to our local convention a time or two. I'd have to look back and see past guest lists. But of course, I'm just talking about his most notorious time as Candyman. Let me know what edition you have of Candyman out there. I know that the Candyman edition from Arrow has one new special feature and 3 short films from the director that are not on here. But this has, I think, 4 commentaries. Yeah, this has 4 commentaries, which is pretty darn impressive. So that's Candyman. And I have a couple of other films here that I just randomly grabbed out of my collection. He was in I think the first 2 Hatchet films. He was in Hatchet. And in I think one scene. He's in like one scene in this movie, and then he has a more prominent role in the second film. Actually, he's on the back. If you can, let me see if you guys can see this. That's Tony Todd here on the back. That's him right there. He runs like the shop that I think is where you buy the tour of to go on that that riverboat tour where, the guy from Hatchet is just hanging out, just hanging out, waiting for people to come by, essentially. And what is it? Victor Crowley. That's who it is. Victor Crowley. Um, yeah, so I saw the original Hatchet in the theaters, and I think I've seen 2 and 3, at home. Obviously, I have 2, and I think 3 I watched maybe on Shudder or someplace like that. But he was in a few other films. He's in The Rock, the Michael Bay film, perhaps the best Michael Bay film, in my opinion. I think this and the original Bad Boys is probably the best Michael Bay films, in my opinion. Um, I'm not a huge fan of Michael Bay and the whole Bayhem thing. I find it more hilarious than anything, and over the top and crazy. Although I did see Ambulance, and I appreciate what he was doing in that movie. Uh, upon a rewatch, doesn't quite as hold up as much, but I appreciate what he was doing in that movie, especially with a lot of uh, camera things that he was doing with drones and things like that. But Tony Todd was in The Rock, which is great, starring Sean Connery as well as Nick Cage. Also, a lot of the great cast members in this film as well. Ed Harris is in this as well. And Tony Todd was also in Platoon. He was in Oliver Stone's Platoon. Um, so that was interesting. I haven't seen this movie in years. I used to watch this movie quite a bit when I was a younger cinephile. When I was just getting into collecting movies, I think Platoon was one of the first movies I ever bought on DVD. I remember buying a Platoon steelbook that was the Canadian edition. So on the back, on the back sheet or the back sleeve it had, because it had one of those like early forms of a J card. The details on the back were written in English, and then it had them written in French as well. So it was a Canadian steelbook of Platoon. I think I still have it somewhere. I don't have it on my shelf anymore, and I may have taken the discs out and put them in here, or maybe I didn't, because this is the Blu-ray DVD combo. I think Platoon's been out in 4K. I can't remember. I should probably check on that while I'm sitting here talking to you guys. Um, let's see. Luckily, that's not what I want to click on. Platoon. Yeah, there is a 4K of Platoon, and there's a 4K steelbook of Platoon as well. I got to look into that. I didn't hear too many great things about it. But yeah, really sad, really sudden passing of the great Tony Todd. Just seemingly a great guy as well, from what I heard from a lot of celebrities talking and a lot of fans who had met him at conventions and taken pictures with him and gotten autographs from him. Really had nothing but great things to say about him, which is awesome because you do hear some horror stories from horror conventions and from other Comic-Con conventions and things like that where they meet the celebrities and the celebrities are maybe they're not having a good day or maybe they're just rude in general. So rest in peace to the great Tony Todd. Other things that have been happening here on the Chasing Labels land, the Criterion sale has started at Barnes & Noble, 50% off Criterion sale, and I've got my crop of things. I went there opening day, actually, because November 1st was a Friday, and I went there and I picked up a couple of things. And let me get my stack here. Oh boy, I got a stack of stuff here. I thought I would get rid of this. Get through this here at the beginning. I did do my usual Criterion sale video that I'm still in the process of editing. I still have to upload the footage. I still have to edit it and post it on YouTube that I do every single time. So that's in the works. That's what I got to do this week. But I did pick up. What did I pick up? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 movies or 7 things because one is a box set. But first up here is I'll go with this. Malcolm X, the 4K UHD edition, the Spike Lee film. I have this on Blu-ray, but I have an old Blu-ray digibook from Warner Brothers that came out probably many moons ago, and I've always wanted to upgrade it to this 4K here. And my store has had this go in and out of stock over the last several years, so I thought they have it in stock, might as well get it. So I picked it up. So that's that. I also picked up another Spike Lee film, Bamboozled, which the cover seems to really jar people, but if you watch the movie, it all makes sense. It all makes sense. It's Spike Lee making a satire, making a social commentary about the way Black people have been portrayed in cinema from the beginning. This plays very similar to Network. It's kind of like his Network, if you will, because he's kind of satirizing entertainment business as well. He's satirizing the audiences and what people like and what makes money and all this kind of stuff. But he's doing it through the prism of uh, uh, African Americans or Black cinema and things like that. And it's really, really good. It was shot all digitally. I think it's one of the first like all digitally shot films. It's something. It really is really good. And then I got a Harmony Korine's Gummo. Uh, if you've seen this movie, it's kind of unexplainable. It's unexplainable, as several Harmony Korine films are. I wanted to get Happiness, but they did not have the 4K UHD in stock. So I figured if I couldn't get Happiness, I had to get Gummo. So I picked up Gummo. And then I talked about it last time. If you were listening to the last episode, episode number 151, I talked about Stephen Frears because The Grifters is getting a 4K UHD release from Criterion. And I mentioned My Beautiful Laundrette, and I realized I didn't own it. So I figured I would get it. And this film stars a very young Daniel Day-Lewis. He's right on the cover there. That's Daniel Day-Lewis. And I really like Stephen Frears' work. I've been buying his work since I started collecting, really. And I've always been a big fan of his stuff, especially his 80s and 90s work. And then a movie from last year that's one of my favorites of last year is All of Us Strangers. I think this is an astonishing film. Starring Paul Mescal, and I think Andrew Scott is Andrew Scott is in the film as well, directed by Andrew Haigh. I think it's Andrew Haigh. I think that's how you pronounce his name. Who's had a Criterion film before. I think the movie Weekend was an Andrew Haigh film. This is a heavy drama, incredibly well acted film. Beautifully well acted film in my opinion. But it's heavy. It's heavy and it'll hit you. It'll hit you hard. It'll hit you really hard. Yeah, I highly recommend that. And then Medicine for Melancholy, which is Barry Jenkins' first film. Came out in 2008, starring Wyatt Cenac and Tracy Higgins. And it's a walk and talk film. It's two people kind of walking and talking, very similar to something like Richard Linklater's Before trilogy. Something similar in that vein. So there's that. And then for the grand finale, and the first thing that I grabbed when I got there was Greg Araki's Teen Apocalypse trilogy, Totally Effed Up, The Doom Generation, and Nowhere. This was high priority on the list. It was this and Happiness. Long Good Friday was another one I wanted to get, but this was really high on the list. These have all been released individually before, not by Criterion, but I think all of the special features are included on here. And this is in 4K UHD, so you even get the upgrade bump from that. I've become a big fan of Greg Araki's work over the last 10 years or so, getting into the whole new queer cinema run of the 1990s. Has really opened my eyes to a lot of cinema that doesn't really get talked about a lot. I'm fortunate enough that June is my birthday month, and June is also Pride Month. So there's a lot of discussion about queer cinema during that month. So it kind of goes hand in hand with my birthday now. So I kind of, combine the two together. But Greg Araki has done really good work. He did a Criterion Closet video a few years ago. And at that time, I was like, oh, is his movies getting a Criterion release? And at the time, they weren't. Hold on here. I have to make an adjustment with my camera because the autofocus is on. And it's making things go a little juddery here. So let me fix that. I fixed it. Okay. So no more autofocus. So there's that. So that is everything I got from the Criterion sale. Let me move this back here. I should move this here to the side for a second because I picked up one more thing that came in the mail. And this is, I talked about this before, You're Next, the Adam Wingard film. This is the Second Sight edition here. It's the Second Sight edition. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because Second Sight's release of the Blair Witch Project is coming out this week. It's only a Blu-ray release, so it's probably going to be Region B locked, but it is kind of the definitive edition of the Blair Witch Project. And I know a lot of people are going to be getting it, so you're probably going to be seeing it on a lot of your social media feeds and things like that. I've already seen people getting it in as of like last week, and I've been super jealous of that. But I did get a second sight edition in as well, and that's the 4K UHD of Your Next. I'm going to put this right next to The Guest on my shelf. So I want to make sure I show that off, and I think that's about it for right now. Let me put this stuff back, and we can get into what we usually get into here on Chasing Labels, and that is talking about what's been coming out, what are the announcements have been. But we do have some comments here first. So our friend Josie is here. Hello, Josie. Good to see you again. See, you've been watching Up a Storm. Let's see, new watches since last time. Legend of the Seven Golden Vampires, very cool. Face Behind the Mask from 1941. All of Me from 1984, made from 2001. Underrated film starring Vince Vaughn and Jon Favreau. And I think it's Jon Favreau's first directed film. I have it on DVD, actually. I think it's his first directed film. Destiny Rides Again. We were just talking about Criterion. That has a Criterion release. That's Marlena Dietrich and Jimmy Stewart in a Western. That's pretty awesome. Prince of Brooklyn from 2008. Let's see. As Josie said, all great watches. Definitely agree from what I've seen. Let's see, what else is we got here? Yesterday, I saw a really good Irish movie called Small Things Like These, starring Cillian Murphy, and it was excellent. That's the new Cillian Murphy film. I'm glad you brought that up. I'm glad you brought it up because it's kind of flying underneath the radar, and this is a movie I really, really want to see myself. Let me check IMDb to make sure I have the right film, because I think it's Cillian Murphy's new film. And of course, this is the first film he's doing after his fantastic turn in Oppenheimer. So this is his follow-up to Oppenheimer. I love how he goes from like this gigantic Christopher Nolan tentpole type of movie to this super small indie Irish film. And that's kind of Cillian Murphy's vibe. That's what he's been doing throughout his entire career. Is he does both the super large stuff with Christopher Nolan, like Batman Begins and Dunkirk. And then he'll do smaller stuff like his TV show Peaky Blinders, which is not small, but you know what I'm saying. Like something like that. Like even something like Anthropoid or Free Fire, much smaller films. But yeah, Small Things Like These is his newest film, and I think it's probably, oh geez, is it just in limited run now? It's probably a limited run. Yeah, I've been really wanting to see this. I have to add this to my watch list on Letterboxd, because after we're done here with Chasing Labels, the next couple of days will be me catching up with 2024 releases once again. I just saw Juror Number 2, which is the new Clint Eastwood film. I still have to see Nora, which is Sean Baker's new film. I still have to check that out. We had Sean Baker here on the podcast once upon a time. I coincidentally still have all of his movies here on my couch. I've got all of his stuff here. Hold on, let me put that back. I've got all of his movies here. Yeah, that'll be an easier way to do it. So I've got to see his new film, Nora. I've heard nothing but great things about it. Nothing but fantastic things about it. Let's see, move that there. So let's get into what we usually get into now. Let me take a drink here to refresh my palate. Nice cold water. I don't know if anyone else is like this, but I cannot drink like room temperature of any beverage. It has to be cold. Even in wintertime, I don't drink hot things like tea or coffee or anything like that. I don't know why. I've always been like that. But that's just random factoid there. If you're writing the biography of my life, that's something you need to add. Let's see. First things first, where do we want to start? Let me start here at the very top of my thing with Kino. Let me get the Kino tab up. Okay. Here we are. So Kino has some December releases, I believe, and then some future stuff as well. First up here is a Melanie Griffith film called Cherry 2000, which looks like a 1980s like exploitative action film if I've ever seen one. It's got Melanie Griffith with a like a ripped vest on, holding a bazooka, and there's a car straight out of Mad Max in the background. That's the cover art for the Blu-ray. So if that doesn't scream uh 80s dystopian action B movie with Melanie Griffith, I don't know what does. This is coming December 31st, so at the literal very end of the year. And I don't think I talked about this last time. Um, and if I did, I'm sorry. But so it's, let's see, 99 minutes. Need a bounty hunter? She's your man. In the future, a man travels to the ends of the earth to find the perfect woman in this fun, futuristic sci-fi adventure. Melanie Griffith, who was in Something Wild and Unflat, is delightful and unflappable as a futuristic bounty hunter and on a mission to find a robot replicant of a rich man's short-circuited wife. This sounds wild. When successful businessman Sam Treadwell finds that his android wife, Cherry Model 2000, has blown a fuse, he hires sexy renegade tracker E. Johnson, Melanie Griffith, to find her exact duplicate. But as their journey to replace his perfect mate leads them into the treacherous and lawless region of the Zone, yeah, that's what it says. There's nothing here. Usually they add a little something of that. But anywho, interesting kind of movie. So moving on from there, actually before we move on from there, there's a new audio commentary by Heather Buckley, Michelle Kisner. Oh, I know Michelle Kisner. I'm friends with her on Facebook. And Holly Honeycutt. And there's also the commentary by director Stephen D. Jonnet and film critic Walter Chaw. Cool. And then there's some other stuff here. There's a short film by the director. Actually, there's 2 films here by the director. That's kind of cool. But let's move on. Let's move on to something I would say bigger and highly, highly anticipated. I cannot stress this enough. Miracle Mile is getting the Blu-ray re-release remaster that we've been waiting years for. It's been in the works for years. I know that the director has been working on this for a while, and there's been rumored across the Blu-ray.com message forums about it for years. I thought perhaps we were getting a 4K by this point, but it looks like we're only getting a remastered Blu-ray, which honestly is fine by me. The movie itself is worth it. Perhaps if this sells well enough in a year or 2 years or 3 years, however long, we will get a 4K release of Miracle Mile. Either way, this is totally worth it. So it's a 2-disc edition of this great film, Miracle Mile, coming out December 31st. It's coming from a brand new HD master from a 16-bit 4K scan of the 35mm original camera negative, supervised and approved by writer-director Stephen D. Jarnett and cinematographer Theo Van de Sande. Do audio commentary by Los Angeles literary mavens Janet Fitch and Matthew Spector. And then 2 more audio commentaries. One with writer-director Stephen D. Jonnet and film critic Walter Chaw, and then another audio commentary with Stephen D. Jonnet, cinematographer Theo Van de Sande, and production designer Chris Horner. And then the second disc is actually those same 2 short films that were on Cherry 2000 are on this disc here because they're done by the same director. So that's interesting. And then there's Grace for Grace audio readings of 2 award-winning stories by Stephen D. Jarnett that runs 83 minutes long. And then Johnny's Supporting Cast Reunion 2015 featurette, Johnny's Supporting Cast Reunion Part 2. More great stuff that runs about 25 minutes long. Harry and Julie 2015 interview with stars Anthony Edwards and Mara Whittingham. It runs about 13 minutes long. Scoring Miracle Mile, new interview with Paul Haslinger, 16 minutes long. Excavations from the editing room, tar pits, that's deleted scenes, outtakes, and bloopers, 11 minutes long. Diamond in the Rough, refining the diner scene, script, text, storyboards, stills, clips, VHS rehearsal footage, Paul Chadwick storyboards, 40 minutes worth of storyboards. Holy heck. And then the extras, several small pieces, short films relating to getting the film made, as well as the early career of Steve DeJarnett, a tribute to the cast and crew, and then alternate diamond ending. Wow. Yeah, like I said, Blu-ray, 4K, whatever the release was going to be, worth it. I have the original Kino Blu-ray release. It's on my shelf. I don't know why. I'm looking over to see if I can get to it, but I think my M's are behind some things, so I may have to pull that hold that off for now, because it would take too much time and effort. But this is going to be the definitive release that we've had from Miracle Mile. If you haven't seen the movie Miracle Mile, highly recommend seeing it. It's from 1988. It's a dystopian, like, well, end of the world type movie, but it's really well done. It's a love story that's so compact and beautiful, and it all works. It's one of those movies where you meet someone and the world is ending. It's incredible when you put those things together, and if you can make that work within that short amount of time, if you can pull that off, it's hell of impressive. And this movie is fantastic, fantastic movie. So that I'm super excited about that. Next we've got a movie that I'm also excited about for much different reasons. We have Houseboat that's getting a Blu-ray release sometime in the future. Excuse me. It's either probably next year. My guess would be next year. Brand new HD master by Paramount from a 6K scan with 35mm VistaVision original camera negative. Houseboat is a 1958 film starring Cary Grant and Sophia Loren, and it's a romantic comedy starring two of the most beautiful people you can put on screen. Um, so Sophia Loren so Cary Grant is a widower who has to take care of 3 kids, and he's having a tough time doing it, and he ends up meeting and hiring, Sophia Loren as, like, the maid/nanny, even though that she's, like, this rich singer, but he has no idea that she is, but she still takes the job as well because she just loves these kids, and antics ensue. They end up having to live on a houseboat for some reason, and they slowly start building a relationship and falling in love and things like that. I don't want to get into any of the other details about it because it's a fun movie to kind of watch yourself and explore. There's nothing in it that you probably can't guess that's going to happen. But I'm just a big fan of Cary Grant and Sophia Loren. I want to own every Cary Grant film personally. So I have to get this movie. I know that it's been on DVD for many, many years from Paramount. I've seen it in stores, I've seen it online, but I was waiting for a Blu-ray release from it, and looks like we're finally going to get it. Nothing here yet in terms of um, like special features or anything like that, so I couldn't say. But it was an Oscar nominee for Best Screenplay and Best Song. Huh, that's interesting. Very cool. But I like the movie. I like the movie. Next is we're getting a 4K UHD of Reindeer Games, the film starring Ben Affleck and Charlize Theron, as well as who else in this movie? Dennis Farina, Gary Sinise, uh, Donald Logue is in the film as well. Danny Trejo is in the movie. It's directed by John Frankenheimer, and this was I think this. What did I say in my post on Facebook when I watched it? It's his last theatrical film, I believe. Let me see. I'm on IMDb. I should probably just go check there. I remember when Reindeer Games came out. I remember seeing the trailers for it. I remember seeing the TV spots for it when it came out in the year 2000. Um, Let me see. John Frankenheimer. So I remember, yeah, this was towards the very, very end of John Frankenheimer's career. This is his last theatrical film, because after this, he did a short film called Ambush. Then he did a movie called Path to War, which was a TV movie that came out in 2002. And then there was another short called The Hire that came out in 2003, and he had passed away in 2002. So that was kind of it, obviously, it for his career. But before Reindeer Games, he did the movie Ronin with uh, Robert De Niro. That movie is fantastic. That movie I think is one of the best films of the 90s, or at least one of the best action films of the 90s. Maybe one of the best action films of the last 30 years, in my opinion. That's how great I think that movie is. That movie's been released on Blu-ray by Arrow. It's been released on 4K as well, I think by Kino, coincidentally. But Reindeer Games, not as beloved as Ronin. Reindeer Games has certain issues because I think there's a much better director's cut of the movie. There was a lot of stuff that got cut from the movie after, I think, focus groups that watched it or early screenings watched it, and then they ended up cutting some things from it. I'm not sure if this is going to insert those scenes back in. We're going to get maybe a little pseudo director's cut. I don't know, but I think I watched the theatrical cut that's available to stream on Paramount Plus, and that's what I watched there. And it's fine. It's a fine like late 90s 2000 thriller. Um, Starring Ben Affleck at the time his star was rising. Charlize Theron's star was rising. Um, After assuming his dead cellmate's identity to get the other man's girlfriend, an ex-convict finds himself a reluctant participant in a casino heist. So, Ben Affleck is incarcerated at the beginning of this movie. He's got this cellmate who has this kind of pen palish girlfriend who happens to be Charlize Theron. And what happens is right before they're both about to be let out of prison, his cellmate dies, and Ben Affleck decides to take the place of his cellmate and impersonate him essentially. It's kind of a dirty thing to do. It's a very dirty thing to do, to get with Charlize Theron and whatnot. But it turns out there's some other things at play. Gary Sinise has this machinations that that he that he wants. He was under the impression that Ben Affleck's cellmate knew some information about a casino. And now that Ben Affleck is impersonating his cellmate, Gary Sinise assumes that he knows the information. And then things kind of take off from there and kind of go all over the place. Where Dennis Farina fits in, he's like the owner of the casino. Dennis Farina was a great character actor. But yeah, it's a fine, like I said, 90s/2000 thriller. Nothing really great to write home about. I enjoyed it. I enjoy it for what it is. But let me move on from there. Let me go back to what seems to be going. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Here we go. So January 14th, Kino is going to be releasing a movie from 1968 called Fade In. It's a TV movie starring Burt Reynolds. And the reason why I am so so animated here, this may in fact be one of the most boring nothing films I've ever seen. This was a movie that one of the first times ever the director took his name off of it. And it's credited as being directed by Alan Smithy. And when you see anything directed by Alan Smithy, that means the director took their name off the project because of whatever reason, whether the studio took it and edited it themselves, or whether the movie just fell apart in post, or whatever the case may be. You get an Alan Smithy credit. And I can understand why after watching it. So what happened was this movie was made starring Burt Reynolds, and I think, who was the other star in this absolute terrible film? Barbara Loden. It was Burt Reynolds and Barbara Loden, and they star in this movie. Let me just read it here. I'm just gonna read it. So, silver screen icons Burt Reynolds and Barbara Loden shine, oh boy, in this offbeat romantic western about opposites who attract while living through the hurly-burly schedule of a film shoot. Arriving in Moab, Utah, to work as an editor on a Hollywood film, a young city woman, Loden surprises herself and everyone else when she finds herself falling for a handsome, charismatic ranch hand, Burt Reynolds, who is working as a driver during the production. Initially drawn together by anything-goes sense of location shooting, the pair quickly discover that despite their differences, They are forging a serious connection, but are they going to make it past the final reel? This description makes it sound so much more interesting than it actually is. When I tell you guys that this movie has nothing of value in it, it has nothing of value in it. Burt Reynolds himself, when he was alive, disowned the movie, pretty much saying that it's the worst thing he ever worked on. And it's true. And it's not even that the movie's bad. There's just nothing in the movie. There's supposed to be, like I said, it's supposed to be a romance on a movie set, and all this stuff, but there's no chemistry. There's no chemistry. There's no energy. It's the flattest movie I've ever seen. What a just a nothing movie. What a waste of a time to watch it. Um, you know what? I like Barbara Loden as well, Humboldt Horror Honey. Wanda is great. Wanda is great. She's a great actress. Burt Reynolds is great. Burt Reynolds, who has so much charisma as an actor, in every movie that I've seen him in. Just even if the movie's not great, he's great to watch on screen. He's bringing nothing of that to this film. He even said, I think in interviews, that he was trying to work with Barbara Loden to kind of, get some type of feedback from her as an actress and things like that, and he was just not getting anything, and he was not giving anything either. And the movie is just not really worth anybody's time. I'll be honest. Unless you wanted to watch it as a Burt Reynolds completist or as a fan of TV movies, what is interesting is that it was never intended to be a TV movie either. So they made the movie Paramount. Paramount made this movie, watched it, and then decided never to release it. And then they sold it to CBS, who decided to just let the movie sit for 5 years. It didn't air on CBS until 1973 as I think it was like a Sunday night movie, late night movie or something. And that's why it's a TV movie now. And by that point, of course, both of these actors had much more claim to fame and things like that. So you could sell that movie as a TV movie saying, hey, look who's in this and whatnot. But it is just so boring, which is a damn shame. It's a really damn shame because, like I said, you have Burt Reynolds, you have Barbara Loden, and like that should have been enough to like do something with the movie, but there's nothing in it. The romance isn't even good. The filmmaking isn't even great. It's so standard. And there are just moments of this movie where nothing is really happening. Like there's one shot of this movie that's a helicopter shot of Barbara Loden and Burt Reynolds standing on the top of this cliff, just like embracing, kind of like the prom picture pose. Like he's behind her, embracing her in the front, and they're just standing there, like looking at the sunset. And the camera pans out with the gigantic, enormous helicopter shot panning out, and I'm like, that's beautiful, but there's no emotion behind it. Oh man, it was painful to watch. It's a movie you watch, and then after that, you're like, I just need to take a break. I just need to take a break. But after that, let's move on to something else. There's a movie here called Nate and Hayes, which I did not get to watch, which stars Tommy Lee Jones and Michael O'Keefe and Jenny Seagrove. Shot by Tony Emi, who shot Folks and Enemy Mine. Let's see, who directed this? Directed by Ferdinand Fairfax, who directed The Rescue. I'm not familiar with that movie, but it's from 1983. Let me get a synopsis of it, so I'm not just talking into the wind here. Let's see, where are you? There you are. So, Nathan Hayes, Nathaniel Williamson is taken to an island mission with his fiancée Sophie. Their ship, the Rona, is captained by the roguish bully Hayes, who also takes a liking to Sophie. When Sophie is kidnapped by slave trader Ben Pease, Nate teams with Hayes in order to find her. That doesn't make any sense. When Sophie is kidnapped by slave trader Ben Pease, with Ben Pease, Nate teams with Hayes in order to find her. Okay, that makes more sense. There needs to be a pause in there somewhere. Sometimes the people who write the synopsis on Letterboxd confuse me in their grammar. But like I said, it does star Tommy Lee Jones. It's from 1983. It just says coming soon, so I don't know anything else about it. But moving on from there is the movies by Costa Gavras. That's why I wanted to mention this. It's a movie called Hanna K, starring Jilly Clayburgh, Gabriel Byrne, Gene Yan, and it's directed by Costa Gavras. Like I said, Costa Gavras, who did Z, which is a Criterion release. He did State of Siege. What was the other film that I've actually seen? Thought I had it down here, but I think I have it on my shelf. Let me go to the Criterion site right now. Just look up Costa Gavras. Let me look up State of Siege. Okay, I wrote stage. That's not going to help. Okay, yeah, the confession. The confession is what I have. State of Siege, Missing, and Z are also part of the Criterion collection. Um, Costa Gavras never not afraid to make a political film. His films are very politically themed. I think Z is amazing. I've been waiting for years for Criterion to put this on Blu-ray or even now to put it in 4K. I don't know what they're waiting for. The Confession, I think, is now out of print. They put it out and then it went out of print very, very quickly. I don't know why they did that, but I think Z is still no Z is out of print. Oh, so maybe they don't have the rights anymore. Maybe that's why they haven't put it out on Blu-ray. They don't have the rights anymore. But this film, Hanna K, um, is being put out by Criterion, and it is. Let me see. Let me go get the synopsis here on Letterboxd. I wanted to watch it, but this was announced rather late in my run of watching movies for the podcast. So, Israeli attorney Hannah Kaufman has her beliefs challenged when she is appointed to the defense of Selim Bakri. Kaufman, who was born in the United States to the survivors of the Holocaust, has always accepted Israel's right to exist, but when she bears witness to some of the cost of its sovereignty, when she meets Bakri, a dispossessed Palestinian man facing serious criminal charges who wants the same thing as his supposed enemies to reclaim his family home. This is a film from 1983, and if you are at all familiar about what is going on in the world currently, this might as well have been made today. You know what I mean? We're still dealing with the Israeli Palestinian conflict right in 2024. And this movie is what, 41 years old? So it's, these things are still relevant within our time. That's why this movie sounds so interesting to me. Plus, it's done by Costa Gavras, who, like I said, is no stranger to politically themed films. So I really want to check this out. It doesn't look like it's streaming anywhere, which makes this Blu-ray even more valuable to me when it comes out. But there's no release date on it. It just says coming soon. So I'm assuming next year. Who knows? So that is Hanna K. Next, we've got a Goldie Hawn Chevy Chase film called Foul Play. This is coming soon on 4K UHD, starring Goldie Hawn, Chevy Chase, Dudley Moore, Burgess Meredith. I gotta look this up. I'm glad we're getting more Goldie Hawn on Blu-ray because we have a serious lack of Goldie Hawn films on Blu-ray. Still waiting for Private Benjamin. Private Benjamin, I think, only has I think only has a DVD that's in like Letterboxd. I don't even think it's Letterboxd. I think it's just in the wrong aspect ratio. I think it's just in the straight up wrong aspect ratio. Which is a damn shame. A damn shame. There's Foul Play. So Foul Play, a shy San Francisco librarian and a bumbling cop fall in love as they solve a crime involving albinos, dwarves, and the Catholic Church. 1978, Chevy Chase, as well as Goldie Hawn. Coming soon, so perhaps next year, we shall see. 4K UHD, 4K scan with 35mm original camera negative, so that's pretty cool. New HDR, Dolby Vision Master as well. Let me go back on Hanna K. It just says brand new HD master from a 2K scan of a 35mm interpositive. Okay. So I think that's it for Kino. Let's go away from Kino right now. Let's see if we've got any other comments here. Yeah, Humboldt, I'm usually not negative when it comes to movies. I'm usually not negative because I always feel like there are even in bad movies, there's some glimmer, silver lining of positivity within them. Even these like kind of big budgeted, kind of brain candy type of movies that we're seeing now, summer blockbusters. People like to ride on, crap on big summer blockbusters and things like that. Even those movies that are that are just there to sell movies to people have positive attributes to them. For example, there's a new movie coming out with The Rock and Chris Evans. It doesn't look very good, but there's gonna be some entertainment and something to get out of it. Whether it is The Rock's charisma or Chris Evans's, handsomeness on screen, something positive is gonna come from that. But that movie Faden had nothing to be like, well, at least that's in there. No, not really. It was such a bland, nothing waste of time. And like I said, it's not that it was bad. Like I've watched bad movies here for Chasing Labels, and at least the bad movies are bad like on purpose, or they're bad, and their badness is some substance you can grab onto. Like negativity is something you can grab onto. Where Fade In had nothing to grab onto. It was just flatlined, just beep flatlined, nothing. Um, Unbelievable, unbelievably unfortunate. It's also wild that they got their hands on that movie because I think that movie was only available on like bootleg DVDs for years. Um, I think that's kind of how people were watching it. Hello, Steve. Steve, greetings, Andrew and Flick friends. Nice. Chasing Labels, awesome. Once upon a time, I called the supporters of Chasing Labels chasers. Um, so I don't know if that's still a thing. But yeah, what are your top 3 favorite horror flicks this year? Oh, I could tell you that. I could definitely tell you that. I can tell you that right now. Let me go to my letterbox because on my letterbox I have a list of my favorite films ranked of 2024. I have to update it actually. So it's a good thing you reminded me. I've got to update it. I can tell you The Substance, we're considering that horror, the Substance, Long Legs. I saw the TV Glow. It's not quite horror. It's such a unique film, but I don't consider it's got horrific elements within it, but it's so much more than that. It's so much more than that. But I would say The Substance, which is definitely body horror. It's definitely body horror. That's number 1 with a bullet. Um, that's actually like my second favorite film of the year currently. And then I've got Long Legs, which is sitting at number 9. And then after that, let's see. Trying to see what else I've got here. I've got Strange Darling. Strange Darling at my 24th favorite movie. So that may be there. Because I don't consider like Love Lies Bleeding is not really a horror film. Um and I have that high up on my list. That reminds me I still need to get that. I still need to get my favorite film of the year, Dune Part 2. Although yeah. Yeah, I'd say The Substance, Long Legs, and Strange Darling. That seems like where it is for me. Let me know, anybody else watching in the future or listening in the future, let me know what your top 3 horror films are of the year. I think, I know Heretic just came out, with Hugh, yeah, is it Hugh Grant? Ooh, yeah, Late Night with the Devil is good. Late Night with the Devil is good. I have that on my list somewhere. Yeah, and I have some other stuff. It's tough to decide what's actually horror and what's not. Like, I even have the movie Monkey Man, which is not I wouldn't consider horror either, but some might, some might. Or even I Saw the TV Glow, some might consider horror. I was thinking of Late Night with the Devil the other night because I think it's starting to get its physical home video release now, and that's something I may want to pick up in the future at some point. It is available to stream on Shutter. I think it's a Shutter original or distributed by them or something. Because I saw David Dasmalchian in the Severance Cellar the other day. There's a Severance Cellar video of him, which reminds me we'll be talking about Severin at some point because they just announced. Not only did they officially announce, well, they already officially had done it, but they gave us all the details and then tell us when it's coming out. The Russ Meyer 3 films that they're putting out, but they also announced their first Black Friday title as well. So we'll be getting into all of that too. But as I said, we're done with Kino, and now we're moving on to. Let's move on to Warner Archive. Why not? Go to Warner Archive. Warner Archive had 2 announcements this week. I'll save the big one for the end, and I'll just do the slate now. So the slate is for their December releases of Warner Archive. We've got Black Eye from 1974, The Tall Target from 1951, Nora Prentiss, 1947, a film noir. It is Noir-vember. The Spanish Main from 1945, A Night Full of Rain from 1978, and Mr. Lucky from 1943. I do want to mention it is Noir-vember. Next week, next Monday, as of right now, Steven and I will be doing Unwatched Pile next Monday, and it will be film noir related. Our friend Johnny Pomato, who has been a guest here on Chasing Labels, he's been a guest on the Unwatched Pile as well. He'll be returning to do a noir themed Unwatched Pile. So we'll be picking up something off of our shelves that we've never seen, that's a film noir or a neo noir or something like that. And we will be watching it, and then we will be pairing it with something else in our collection. And I'm looking around frantically because I don't know which movie yet I'm going to watch. Every film noir that I have, I've seen, except for stuff in the noir box sets from Indicator. Those are the stuff I haven't really delved into a lot yet. So I may be cracking one of them open and watching it. So we will see. We will see next Monday. We will be live streaming here on Chasing Labels on Watch Pile. I forgot what episode we're on, but you'll know at the time. So I want to mention that now, and I'll probably plug it in at the very end of the show as well. But if you don't get to the end of the show, because I tend to go on for so long, I want to get it in now for those of you listening. But let's see, Warner Archive. So with the Warner Archive stuff, Black Eye is it's speaking of like noir, it's kind of it's a neo-noir, somewhat black exploitation film from the 70s. And I say that because it doesn't quite have the same energy and vibe as the black exploitation films of that time. I'm thinking of the films with Pam Grier. I'm thinking of Shaft. I'm thinking of Dolomite. I'm thinking of those types of movies that have that energy, that have that soundtrack, that have that feeling. This feels just like a neo-noir from the 70s that happened to star Fred Williamson as the main character, as the main detective in it. It's a little straightforward of a movie. So yeah, let me get into it a little bit. Since he gave up on his police badge, Shep Stone, portrayed by Fred Williamson, tries to make a go of it as a private investigator. A snoop job here, a shakedown there. Work hasn't exactly poured into the rundown bar where he occupies a stool-keeping office hours. But one night, Stone walks into his apartment and into a room where a murder victim is still warm and the killer is lying in wait for Stone. Fred Williamson, who was in From Dusk Till Dawn, actually plays Stone, whose search for a murder weapon spins into a spider's web of suspense, linking a religious cult, a porno ring, a missing person, and a notorious drug underground. So you've got the red herrings, you've got the misinformation, you've got the investigation. It's a murder mystery going on here. So yeah, it's entertaining from that perspective. But going into it, I thought I was going to get more of a blaxploitation type of Shaft vibe. And it is not quite that type of movie. So go into it with different expectations than that. It's getting a 4K restoration from the original camera negative, but nothing else in terms of special features, other than the theatrical trailer, which you can find on YouTube. That's coming out December 17th. Now, The Tall Target is a Anthony Mann film. It's an Anthony Mann film from 19 when did I say 1951? Yeah, 1951. Former police officer John Kennedy doesn't have a ticket, but he's determined to stay aboard the overnight train rolling from New York to Washington D.C. He's convinced that someone among the passengers intends to kill newly elected President Abraham Lincoln. When the train stops in Baltimore, the true life Baltimore plot provides the inspiration for the MGM thriller directed with film noir overtones by author Anthony Mann. Under his distinct direction, the Tall Tiger possesses a real feel for the powder keg political atmosphere of 1861. Dick Powell portrays Kennedy with appropriate grit, sifting through layers of duplicity and confronting escalating dangers as the night express rumples towards destination. There's some words they need to put in there, but either way, new 4K restoration from preserved elements, basically meaning that the best elements they could, get their hands on. There's a radio broadcast of Mr. President starring Edward Arnold from 1949, classic MGM cartoons, Jerry's cousin, and then Slicked Up Pup. That's interesting. I think is that those Tom and Jerry cartoons? Maybe. But December 17th as well. For those of you who are fans of Anthony Mann, for those of you who have an Anthony Mann section in your collection, this movie is for you. I'm a big fan of Anthony Mann. I love his westerns. His westerns with Jimmy Stewart primarily. The Naked Spur, Winchester 73, which is getting a Criterion release. I think in January, if I remember correctly. So those movies, The Man from Laramie, that's another one. I think The Far Country is another Anthony Mann western with Jimmy Stewart. There's another one too. Oh, something River. Anywho, but I like those movies. He also did, like I said, film noirs as well. So that's really awesome. The Tall Target is the name of that movie. Nora Prentiss is another film noir. So we got another film noir here. Excuse me. A respected doctor fakes his death, deserts his family, throws away his career, and drives himself to the edge of madness, all for the love of a saloon singer, Nora Prentiss, portrayed by Anne Sheridan. You've got the femme fatale, you've got the man who is self-destructing because of the femme fatale. You've got it all, people. It's a really good film. This man literally drives himself insane over his love of this woman. And it's interesting commentary on that this man could have it all. He's got the wife, he's got the good job, he's got a home in the suburbs, he's well off to do, he's a doctor, he's got a rich, wealthy job, but he still wants something else. And that something else is gonna send him down a path of self-destruction. That is the movie Nora Prentiss. It's really good. I really liked it a lot. I've been wanting to watch it for years, so I finally got to watch it here for Chasing Labels. And it's really good stuff. Yeah. Oh, I forgot about Abigail. Thank you, Steve. I'm going back to the comments here for those listening. Abigail is so much fun. Abigail is this year's Ready or Not. It's Ready or Not. It's Happy Death Day. I like those kinds of horror comedies that have come out over the last few years that have a little bit of an edge to them. Even the what's the body double one? The Freaky Friday one with Vince Vaughn. Let me go look it up. Is it just called Freaky? Is it just called Freaky? Yep, it's just called Freaky. The one from 2020 with Catherine Newton, who's become a bit of a scream queen over the last several years. She's kind of a new scream queen. But I really liked Abigail as well. I think it was done by the same people from Ready or Not. So there you go. Even I just showed Your Next at the beginning of this episode. I don't know if you saw it, Steve. And that was from 2011. That movie has, of course, it's a darker toned movie than these kind of like lighter horror comedies that we've been getting. But Abigail, I really like. Abigail, I still need to get. I saw it in store many a time, and I should have bought it when I had the chance because it was available. And now it's tough to find. I don't know if anybody's finding it really tough now to find movies in store. Because for me, it's tough. Target's not carrying movies anymore. Best Buy's not carrying movies anymore. My Walmarts do carry it, but their sections are so small, and sometimes my local Walmarts don't even put out the new releases on Tuesdays, and you kinda have to wait and see if they're gonna put them out at all, and I'm like, what do I do as a collector? I guess just buy online now. I don't have a lot of those smaller stores in my area like I used to have, so, it's frustrating. I've been buying a lot of my stuff online now, um, but of course, buying online can the prices can increase. They can be inflated a bit. Uh, but anyway, that was my story with that. But as I was saying, Nora Prentiss is a great film noir. Check it out if you haven't, especially for Noir-vember. Then we have the Spanish Main. So, one name strikes fear among the Spanish ship captains plying the coastal Caribbean waters of the Spanish Main of the Spanish Main, Barracuda, the notorious scourge of the seas. Yet it was not always so. In the lavish swashbuckler, Casablanca's Paul Henreid stars in a change of pace role as Captain Laurent Van Horn, a Dutch trader in the Caribbean who is wrongly imprisoned by the Spanish governor and sentenced to hang for trespassing. But Van Horn stages a breakout when, with other unjustly incarcerated prisoners. So what happens is he's about to be hanged. He breaks out, and then he becomes this swashbuckler buccaneer, the Barracuda, who's like he's a pirate. He's a pirate. He's doing pirate type things in the Caribbean, and harassing like Spanish ships and things like that. And then there's a whole romance in here with Maureen O'Hara, who is traveling to. Where is she traveling to? Uh, let's see. Yeah, she's Francesca, lovely Maureen O'Hara. Yeah, for marriage to the yeah, she's like the becoming like the governor. She's supposed to marry the governor, and then she ends up getting like captured by this Barracuda guy, and they end up striking up like this romance where he's this roguish, rugged guy, and she's like this not quite fair maiden, but you know what I'm saying. And Maureen O'Hara looks absolutely stunning in this movie. Stunning. I think this was RKO's first um um first Technicolor film, and Maureen O'Hara was just made for Technicolor. She has some of the most gorgeous red hair you've ever seen on screen. Maureen O'Hara, who was just an absolute legend. An absolute legend. She passed away a few years ago, and she was at one of the Turner Classic Movie Festivals several years back. They brought her out on stage, and she talked and whatnot. Just an utter, just a legend, just an utter legend. This was nominated for Best Color Cinematography from the 1945 Oscars, directed by stylish flair by the great Frank Borzaghi. The Spanish Main is a prime entertainment for audiences of all ages. This movie reminds me a lot of Captain Blood or other movies starring like Errol Flynn. This just happens to star Paul Henreid in the Errol Flynn role, really. Frank Borzaghi is a really good director. Uh, really good director. Let me get up his filmography here for a second, because you probably haven't heard the name, but you may have seen his movies. Um, let's see. Here we go. The Spanish Main, Frank Borzaghi. He directed the movies The Mortal Storm, History is Made at Night, which has a Criterion release. He directed the movie Moonrise, which is very good. He directed A Farewell to Arms. He directed the movie Desire, which has gotten several Blu-ray releases, I think. I know it's got one from Indicator, and I think it has one from Kino as well. Don't quote me on that. He directed the movie Mannequin. He directed the movie Little Man, What Now? He directed the movie The Shining Hour. Um, kind of a great workman's director. Really great workman's director. I have History is Made at Night. Um, I have the Blu-ray of that. I think I have A Farewell to Arms as well. And if I don't, I think there's a Kino release of that. Um, Anywho, Frank Borzaghi, underrated director. Underrated director. What else we got here? Let's move along here. I keep clicking on the wrong tab. A Night Full of Rain. Candice Bergen, Giancarlo Giannini. This is a film directed by Lena Wertmuller. Lena Wertmuller has a honorary Oscar. She has an honorary Oscar. Let me go get the the synopsis for this. That's not where I want to go. Always clicking on the wrong things, frustrating because you're trying to do things super fast, so you end up clicking on the wrong things. Let's see, A Night Full of Rain from 1978, Lena Wertmuller. It says Lizzie, a liberated American photographer, falls for narrow-minded journalist Paolo, then finds she can't live with him or without him. So, what you get here is this movie about this relationship between the Lizzie character and the Paolo character. Candice Bergen portrays Lizzie, and Paolo is portrayed by Giancarlo Giannini. And they're these two kind of opposite type of people. One is this, like I said, this liberated, like feminist female photographer, and the other one is like a chauvinistic male. And they end up in this relationship. They end up getting married. They end up having a child. They have a family, but they still have conflict, obviously, of personality and conflict of who they are within their relationship and all this kind of stuff and the roles they fill. And this movie kind of traverses that, but it traverses it with an interesting story structure. It's not quite linear. You kind of bounce around from when they're meeting, when they're married, older in age, in the middle of their relationship. You kind of bounce around from there, but you also get the perspective of the people who know them, like their friends and family, will be like narrating or commenting on their relationship and who they are as people. So that's in there as well. So you get a lot of things juggling in here when it comes to the plot structure and things like that. And it can be a little jarring, but when the movie settles down, when the movie gets to that third act, and you get this night full of rain in quote sequence here, it becomes very powerful, and it starts reminding me of the movie Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. That whole movie was just people talking and arguing and letting steam out and all this kinds of stuff. When it gets into that mode of the movie, when things really hit the fan, it becomes really good. It becomes really good and fascinating and engrossing as a viewer. And that's when the movie got good for me. Uh, but if you can get through a lot of the other stuff, which is not bad, there's just a lot of plot movement, things like that, and jumping around of timelines and things like that. But A Night Full of Rain, a movie I'd heard of. I've heard of Lena Wertmuller, but I'd never seen any of her work. She directed other films like Seven Beauties, Love and Anarchy, Swept Away, The Seduction of Mimi. All these films I've never seen before. I'm just going by what's here on her Letterboxd. So that's interesting. Let's see. What else do we have here for comments? Let's see. Steve says, yes, Freaky, that's a great one too. Have you seen Immaculate? Love that one too. I have seen Immaculate. I've seen Immaculate, and then I've seen um what was the one that came out around the same time? It was the prequel to The Omen. And wasn't it called like The First Omen? Not a great title. Let's see. Yeah, it was called The First Omen. What is interesting about The First Omen, better than what I thought it was going to be. For a movie with that title and with the premise of, oh, it's the prequel to The Omen. Why are we doing a prequel to a movie that was made nearly 50 years ago? Uh, You know what I mean? Like it also, people hate the fact that they keep going back to this well of franchises of the past, regardless of genre, regardless of whatever. We keep going back and making either direct sequels, we make prequels, we make whatever sidequels, whatever the case may be. People are kind of sick of that. I don't mind it. I think it's kind of an interesting movie experiment, if you will. And the first Omen for me was better than I thought it was gonna be. Surprisingly better than I thought, and it surprisingly fit well with the first Omen, with the original Omen film. So, yeah, I was surprised about that, but Immaculate is interesting. Immaculate is kind of like the first Omen on like on steroids, if you will. It takes away that kind of mainstream studio shine, if you will, and makes it a little bit grittier, if you will. And I thought that Sydney Sweeney was very good in it. I thought she was very good in it. I like the fact that she's stretching her acting abilities, or at least trying to stretch her acting abilities. Not only doing the rom-coms, not only doing this kind of the safer films, but she's trying to do things that are different and whatnot. I like when actors kind of challenge themselves. I say this a lot now. There's a lot of older actors who are in the later parts of their careers, and they're not really challenging themselves anymore. There are some young actors who aren't challenging themselves either, and you can kind of tell. So that's kind of really cool that Immaculate was a challenging film for her. What an ending too! What an ending! I won't get into it because I don't want to spoil it, but I know what you're saying, Steve. Um, is that it was actually very good as well. That's another one I have to get. Coincidentally, I just ordered the Omen, the original Omen box set, the one that Shout Factory slash Scream Factory put out years ago. It was on sale for super cheap on Amazon late at night, and I was like, I'm never gonna find this for this cheap. I might as well buy it now because I've been wanting to buy it for years. So I have that coming in the mail at some point later this month. So I will be adding that into my my horror section. But I knew it as soon as I ordered it, and I knew it was gonna happen. I think that box set's out of print from Shout Factory now, so someone's gonna pick up the rights and either reissue those movies or put the Omen out in 4K, at least the original Omen. It came out in 1976. 2026 is gonna be right around the corner from us anytime soon. You can put out a 50th anniversary 4K UHD deluxe edition of it and sell it that way. And that's how you could sell the Omen. Uh, so that's probably what's going to happen. But you know, as collectors, we always end up having to buy multiple copies of things. That's just the way things are. But back to Warner Archive. So that's coming out December 17th, A Night Full of Rain. And then we've got another Cary Grant film here called Mr. Lucky. Like I said, I'm a Cary Grant lover. I need to get all the Cary Grant movies. So I got to get this one. Mr. Lucky. Cary Grant is a sophisticated scoundrel in this entertaining tale of gambling ship owner and his shifty attempts to raise money while he avoids the draft. Planning to flee to South America with the proceeds from a charity ball for war relief, Joe Adams, portrayed by Cary Grant, discovers that his double cross is double crossed again by a former partner. Then, to make matters worse, Joe realizes that his love for the socialite fundraiser Dorothy Bryant, portrayed by Lorraine Day, impedes his larcenous motives. Heroics prevail as Joe recovers the loot and makes a daring voyage to deliver medical supplies for Europe. Once again, proving that even as a scoundrel, Cary Grant is the epitome of class. New 4K restoration from the original camera negative. A Lux Radio Theater broadcast with Cary Grant and Lorraine Day from 1943. Screen Directors Playhouse broadcast with Cary Grant and H.C. Potter from 1950, and then that is it. Yeah, I saw this movie probably years ago in the midst of a Cary Grant marathon or something, and I don't quite remember it, but I know I've seen it. H.C. Potter, if I remember correctly, directed the movie Mr. Blandings Builds His Dream House, another Cary Grant film. And I've got to get that movie as well. I have it on DVD, but I need the Blu-ray. I need it. So let's move back here. And that is it for that Warner Archive slate from December. And let me see, when was that coming out? I'm way too locked in here. Hold on. Mr. Lucky is also December 17th. They're all December 17th. But the big news, kind of earth-shattering, like shaking the foundation of movie collecting and classic movie lovers collecting in general, is that Warner Archive is going to be releasing their first 4K UHD. Didn't see this coming. Did not see this coming at all. The Searchers is getting a 4K UHD from Warner Archive, and it's coming out. I don't think they have it. December 17th, the same day as all those other ones I just talked about. New 4K UHD will be available with Dolby Vision HDR10. Both the 4K and Blu-ray disc will contain the feature's original mono audio track, which was restored from the best available source materials. The film underwent an extensive restoration earlier this year at Warner Brothers. Yeah, and the restoration was undertaken by Warner Brothers Discovery in collaboration with the Film Foundation and made its public premiere on April 21st of this year at the 15th annual TCM Film Festival. Let's see. Oh, compression and authoring for Blu-ray and UHD Blu-ray were performed by Fidelity in Motion. We know the people over at Fidelity in Motion. We've interviewed them. So that's pretty cool. They do great work when it comes to working on the compression on discs and things like that. So this is going to look fantastic. This is going to look stunning. This may be the disc of the year for me personally, because I'm a big fan of this movie. I'm a big fan of John Ford. The John Wayne and John Wayne Western phenomena I find to be utterly fascinating when it comes to the history of American cinema. It was something that captured the hearts and minds of people for decades. So that in and of itself fascinates me. What we're looking at in terms of extras packaging, the audio, the looks like the disc is going to have an archival commentary by director Peter Bogdanovich on both the 4K and the Blu-ray disc. The Blu-ray disc will have The Searchers and Appreciation, A Turning of the Earth, John Ford, John Wayne, and The Searchers, newsreel coverage of the film's world premiere, outtakes, behind the camera segments from the 1956 Warner Brother Presents TV series, Meet Jeffrey Hunter, Monument Valley, Meet Natalie Wood, setting up production. This was an early film from Natalie Wood. This may have been her first film. This came out in 1956. This was actually a later film from the John Ford and John Wayne collaboration. Um, so yeah. Well, after this, they had The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance and then other stuff. But still, 1956, they had been working together since the 30s at that point. So, yeah, I've always been a big fan of this film. But let me go get my Blu-ray. So I've had the Blu-ray of this for many years. So here it is right here. Here it is right here, and this Blu-ray's been re-released a few times. Let me just get the date of when this actually came out. I want to say 2006, maybe. Yeah, this original Blu-ray came out on October 11th, 2006. This is what is it, an 18-year-old Blu-ray? This movie desperately needed something. Desperately needed a remaster, a restoration. Um, man, I've had this in my collection for so long. I didn't get it back in 2006 because I didn't make the transition from DVD to Blu-ray till 2009. So obviously I got it, after that. But man, this is an ancient disc from the Blu-ray world, the HD world. Um, so to get this now is kind of a treat. So that 4K restoration, that 4K UHD is coming out in December. That's gonna be the Christmas gift to myself. I'm definitely gonna be buying that. I don't know if let me check to see if let me click on it. So far there is no pre-order for it yet up on Amazon. So I don't know. Let me go check our buddies over at Orbit DVD, see if they have a pre-order up for it either. Because I'm not sure if Diabolic has it either yet. Um, this reminds me, they do. Looks like Orbit TV does not have the pre-order up yet for it. Okay, so that is it from Warner Archive. Let's get rid of those um, tabs that I have there. Let's see. Let me go from Warner Archive now to Radiance. Okay, so Radiance had a 4-film slate that they are releasing in are these their December or their January releases? Oh wait, these are their February releases. Hey now. They're so far ahead. Hey now. Um yeah, I think this is their February slate. What am I doing here? Let me go check. Sorry, just had a my brain just shut off there for a second. I wanted to check to see if this was indeed their February releases, because they're usually right on schedule. They're usually right ahead. I think their next slate drop will be early next month. Because if you go to their website, they tell you when they're going to be announcing their next group of titles. So that's really awesome. Um, let's see. I'm on their Facebook page right now. I think Haxon, their release of Haxon came out this week. Oh, okay, this is not helpful in the least bit. Oh, I went too far. I went too far. Yeah, I think this is their February releases. Yeah. So anywho, let's go through these bad boys. So first up we have here is a movie by Tom Noonan. He also stars in the film as well, and this is a movie called What Happened Was. This is a movie from 1994. Yes, 1994. It also stars. Let me see if I can get the other star here. Karen Silas. So Karen Silas and Tom Noonan, and I remember Tom Noonan. He plays, I think, the Red Dragon in Manhunter. In Michael Mann's Manhunter. That's where I knew Thomas Noonan from. But he's been a character actor for years. He's been in so many different things since then. I think he was in Heat as well, another Michael Mann film, coincidentally. He's been in many different things, but he directed and starred in this film. And this film is is set entirely in one place, and the whole thing is just a conversation. Think of My Dinner with Andre, but this is like a date. So there's this woman, Jackie, portrayed by Karen Silas, and Michael, portrayed by Tom Noonan. And they work in this big law firm together. She is an executive assistant. He's a paralegal, and I guess they get along well together at work. Perhaps flirtatious office stuff. Think of Jim and Pam from The Office, I guess. And they decide that they're gonna like meet up and have dinner at Jackie's apartment. So at the beginning of the movie, she's getting ready, and then he shows up, and they proceed to have dinner and just talk. It's it's awkward, it's cringeworthy, it's revelatory, it's all kinds of things. Think of My Dinner with Andre, but set in an apartment on a pseudo dinner date between two coworkers. And that's this movie you have. And there's a lot of things covered in here. It's tonally goes all over the place. And you can kind of feel the tone throughout this movie. You can feel the hesitation, you can feel the flirtation, you can feel the tenseness of it all. You can get all of that in there. And man, it's one of those movies where if you like everything set in one place, dialogue heavy, kind of like a stage play, this is the movie for you. It's called What Happened Was. Now, I believe this says region A, B, and C, but there is. Let me see. Let me go back to Blu-ray.com. There was a Blu-ray release of this uh, a couple of years ago, actually in 2021 by Oscilloscope. Oscilloscope put this out on Blu-ray a few years ago, and there's nothing here. Of course, I would have to go to the Oscilloscope website to even get any info on it. Um, but it's still in print. It does say it's temporarily out of stock on Amazon. Perhaps maybe it's not in print. But the special features that Radiance are putting out, it's a 4K restoration by Oscilloscope film, so same transfer. It's got an interview with director Tom Noonan and producer Scott McCauley from 2021. Interview with star Karen Silas from 2021. New interview with yeah, it says new interview about the film with critic Charles Bermesco from 2024. That I assume is exclusive to here. I think the other ones look like they're from the Oscilloscope release. So whether you get the Oscilloscope release or whether you get this release, the only thing you're going to be missing is a new interview by the film critic Charles Bermesco. Now this is coming out in February. Uh-oh. Sorry, my computer froze there. Hold on, everyone. I'm gonna fix this. You can think you guys can still hear me? Yeah, this happened before. Hold on, still trying to fix it. Oh, here I am. Here I am. Can you guys see me again? Let me check my settings for a second. Okay, you guys can. Let me see. Awesome. Thank you, Adam. So that's happened before. That keeps happening. So what it is. Thank you. Thank you, guys. You guys can see me and thank you. So what happens is my camera loses connection somehow with my browser. I don't know why that keeps happening. It happened on Watch Pile. It happened in one of the episodes months ago. Uh, I don't know. I think the software I use for my camera, I think like crashes. At least that's what happened before. But I'm back now, so I'm good. Yeah, let me just check the YouTube stream. Let's see. Okay. Yep. Thank you for your patience. All right. So I'm back. Now, where was I? Oh, yeah. I was in talking about what happened was, and I was talking about that it comes out in February. I was talking about, yeah, it comes out, looks like that 2/24/25. Yes. So that's the movie directed by and starring Tom Noonan. Um, so I'm, so yeah, I'm a little rattled right now. So let me get back to what I was talking about. So that's that movie. Let me talk about another film here by Patrick Tam. Yeah, so I think what I gotta do is before I stream, whether it be for Unwatched Pile or whether it be for here on Chasing Labels, maybe I'll just like, I don't know, shut down my computer and then reboot it. Just to kind of maybe give it something, some type of some type of cleansing or something. I don't know. Because that keeps happening now more common so. And it's really annoying because I don't want to crash the stream because I wouldn't know how to restart it um, right away. So, anywho, as long as I'm back here and I'm talking with you guys, for those of you listening at home, we had a little bit of technical difficulties. For those of you listening on Apple Podcast and Google and places like that, my camera crashed on me again, but it looks like my microphone stayed this time before both of the things went down. I'll tell you, Adam. Yeah, Adam says My computer froze, tech sucks. Yeah, that happens to me all the time. What happened to me last night is I was watching something for the podcast at, like, 2 AM. I was watching a movie, and I was streaming it, and my internet just went out at 2 AM, and I'm like, "It's a little inconvenient, a little inconvenient." But those things you kinda can't help, you know what I mean? Those things you can't help. Uh, just they just happen. It's nice that we have physical media, at least many of us do, that if we ever do lose internet for a long amount of time, I've got stuff to watch. I don't have anything to worry about there. But still, I was in the middle of last second preparations here for chasing labels. Um, but as long as I'm back here now, we're good to go. We're good to go. So let me talk about this double feature here called Nomad plus My Heart Is That Eternal Rose. These are both films by Patrick Tam, directed by Patrick Tam. And Nomad, let's see, an icon of Hong Kong new wave and mentor to Wong Kar-wai, Patrick Tam worked with icons including Tony Leung, Leslie Chung, Kenny B, and others in these two inimitable classics. In Nomad, two couples, equal parts rich and working class, bond and experience the frolics of youth. The arrival of a Red Army deserter brings violence and disruption, prompting incredible plot twists and inspired set pieces. It's an interesting film. It's about, like, kind of relationships and drifting through life until life kind of catches up with you, like the real world catches up with you. Um, but My Heart is That Eternal Rose I've talked about before because one of the partner labels has already given this movie a Blu-ray release. I believe Canny from uh, the OCN partner labels at Vinegar Syndrome, they've given this movie a release already. So many of you have probably either seen it, have it, or have heard it here talked about on Chasing Labels. But just for a quick recap, My Heart Is That Eternal Rose finds Tam in the more familiar heroic bloodshed genre. A young couple are torn apart by a botched triad job that forces Rick to relocate to the Philippines and Lap to become a gangster's mob. 6 years later, they meet again, but their reunion only reignites the danger that drove them apart. So we've got this botched assassination or hit that leads these two lovers to have to go on different paths in their lives, and then they reconnect 6 years later, and things are different. Things are different, but their romance is reignited. But danger is around every corner. That's essentially that movie. It is very good movie. My Heart Is That Eternal Rose is very, very good. Um, the Patrick Tam, it did say that he was a mentor of bits to Wong Kar-wai. So when you're thinking of tone, when it comes to these movies, think of a Wong Kar-wai film. That type of tone. That's what we're working with here. Let's see what we got here for special features. Okay, 4K restoration of Nomad director's cut. I think this has I think this has the director's cut. 2K restoration of My Heart Is That Eternal Rose, a UK premiere on Blu-ray, presented on 2 discs. Uh, interview with critic Tony Raines on Nomad. Interview with assistant director Stanley Kwan on Nomad. Stanley Kwan, who I yeah, we've talked about his work before. Rouge is, I think, Stanley Kwan. That's a Criterion release. And then we've got interview with producer of Nomad, Dennis Yu, a visual essay on Patrick Tam, and the Hong Kong New Wave by author David Desser. Audio commentary on My Heart Is That Eternal Rose by Frank Zhang. Interview with producer John Sham. 2 episodes of CID directed by Tam. 1976, 49 minutes each. I think that was on the Blu-ray that was put out by Canny. Then we got new subtitles by Dylan Chung. Well, I think we've talked to Dylan Chung here. I believe so. He usually does the subtitles for a lot of these releases. He's very good at his job. Limited edition booklet here as well with writings. Limited to 3,000 copies. Yep, February. This is coming out February 24th, 2025. It says Region B. So this is a Region B only release. And these are 2 films from the 80s, if anybody was interested in knowing that. One's from 82, the other's from 89. Okay, let me see what else we've got here from Radiance. We've got actually. Let me talk about the one movie I did not get to see from them. It's called The Cat, filmed by Dominic Graf. It's called The Cat. It is a German film. Two robbers hold up a bank and its employees demanding 3 million marks for their ransom. The police plot to storm the bank but are unaware the robbers have an accomplice on the outside. Anticipating their every move, genre master Dominic Graf specialized in crime films, and The Cat is one of his greatest. A heist film of the highest order, it grabs you from its opening scenes and doesn't let go. Sounds interesting. Interview with Dominic Graf is a special feature on here from 2024, 62 minutes long. That's a heck of a long interview. Interview with screenwriter Christoph Fromm. Interview with producer George Fell. Select scene commentary by Dominic Graf. And then that's it in terms of special features. There's a booklet here as well. I think so. Oh, maybe not. I don't think so. No. So that is The Cat. Now, last but certainly not least is Hokuriku Proxy War. I don't know why it was so hard for me to say that. Hokuriku Proxy War. Let's see. Actually, I want to see what the cat's region coding was. So the cat is region A, B, and C, so it's all regions. Hokuriku Proxy War is region A and B. So we've got is this a yeah, this is a Kinji Fukasaku film. This is another Kinji Fukasaku film that Radiance is putting out. So, loose cannon gangster Kawada rebels when his two-timing boss forms an alliance with a major crime syndicate. The syndicate's main rivals see Kawada as their perfect proxy, but his furious temper quickly rubs them the wrong way, leaving Kawada to face overwhelming forces. Fukasaku's final Yakuza film features some of the strongest women's roles in his career, plus a raucous central performance from Hiroki Matsukata. And support from the legendary Sonny Chiba. This has high definition transfer, new interview with actress Yoko Takahashi, new interview with screenwriter Koji Takada, a Yakuza film historian Akihiko Ito on the real life Hokuriku proxy war murder case. And that's it for special features. Interesting. Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, this is a Japanese Yakuza gangster film from the late 70s, I believe. Let's see. This is from 1977, directed by Kinji Fukasaku. Kinji Fukasaku is becoming like one of my favorite directors when it comes to Japanese cinema, especially of like the last 50 years. His work is very wide ranging and it's really good stuff. Yeah, he's been doing work since the 60s. He, of course, directed Battle Royale. He directed Battles Without Honor and Humanity. I bring this up all the time. He directed a bunch of like Yakuza films in the 70s. Yeah, he's a great director. And Radiance is putting out a bunch of his stuff. A bunch of his stuff is coming out from other places as well. So much of his stuff is readily available now more than ever before. Yeah, Radiance does demand all of our attention. I wish I had the money. You know what's crazy? I've been trying to keep up with their releases, and I'm a year behind. I am a year behind. I've got mounds of their stuff around me. Let me grab a few. Oh, gee. Where do I have the most recent stuff? Oh, here they are. I've shown these off before, but since perhaps you haven't seen, but this is stuff I bought recently, like the Iron Prefect, Giant Beast, the Shape of Night, and then I've got is this I the Executioner? This is some recent stuff I picked up. By recent, I mean like a month or two ago. Actually, it may have been this summer. Time is moving by way too fast. But they've got stuff every month. They're like clockwork. Like I said, on their website, they've they tell you the next day that they're going to be dropping new announcements, and it's every single month. We've had Fran Simeone here on the channel twice, on Chasing Labels twice, and he's of course the founder and the guy. He's the guy over there at Radiance, and we had him on right before the launch, and then we had him. I think earlier this year we had him. We had him come back after like a calendar year of doing Radiance releases to get kind of an update on how things have been going there with them and all that kind of stuff. And it seems to be going very, very well because their stuff keeps selling, or at least I keep buying it. I keep buying it. Um, so that's yeah, I'm like a year behind on stuff. I was just looking at things the other day because I have to keep updating my lists of like who's putting stuff out, like Fun City Editions, like Radiance, Eureka, and everybody to see what everybody's putting out so I can keep up. But Radiance, man, they put out such good stuff, such good stuff, and it's wide ranging too, wide ranging stuff. Like they've put out like I said, like they putting out Japanese cinema, they're putting out German cinema, Italian cinema. They put out American cinema with the Robert Altman stuff they put out. I've got this down here, which I should have rewatched last month, but of course I didn't. That's gonna move. I've got Messiah of Evil. Got Messiah of Evil. I've talked about this movie on an unwatched pile, Yakuza Graveyard. Um, I've got I've got so much stuff here. A woman kills. A woman kills. That's good stuff. Yeah. To be honest, you couldn't be you wouldn't go wrong. You would not go wrong if that was the only label that you chased was Radiance. You could have a really really awesome just curated collection of stuff. Let me put this stuff back. Let's see. Put that stuff back. I got my stacks up next to me here. Um, coincidentally, I have the Batman next to me. I don't know if anybody's been watching The Penguin on HBO Max, but it's very good. Yeah, Messiah of Evil is excellent. What a great like cult classic from the 70s. I like the kind of Wicker Man vibes that movie gives off. You know, like isolated horror where you're like stuck in a place and it's just creepy atmosphere. Um, I was thinking of the Wicker Man the other day because I was thinking of Christopher Lee, and I was just thinking of that massive edition that Studio Canal put out of the Wicker Man, and how expensive it is, and how it's still available, but it's like like $100 in most places, and how I still kind of want it, but as you said, if I had the money, I'd get everything. But slowly but surely, you get the things you want, you get the things you need for your collection to curate it the way you want it to be. At least that's my philosophy on certain things. But where was I? Oh yeah, Radiance. So that's Hokuriku Proxy War, Kinji Fukasaku, coming out in February. And that's it for Radiance. What happened was Nomad, the double feature of Nomad and My Heart Is That Eternal Rose. And then you have The Cat, and then you've got Hokuriku Proxy War. Those are the four from February. I think they're the only ones right now currently that are announcing February titles. I think everybody else is still in January. But let's see what we have next. Well, we can do this one really quickly. Let me go find it actually. So we've got Shout Factory slash Scream Factory titles, but there's not much to talk about here. So they're putting out a 4K UHD of The Last Voyage of the Demeter, which is a horror film that came out last year. Yeah, it came out last year, and this is the Demeter was the ship that brought Nosferatu over in the movie Nosferatu, and this movie just takes place on what happened on that boat. Kind of a talk about isolation. You don't get more isolated than a boat in the middle of nowhere. So it takes place on that boat. Super creepy. I watched it when it came out. I remember really enjoying it for what it is. Really just atmospheric and creepy, great special effects when it came to the creature, really great creature effects. Um, yeah, gore effects as well. Pretty cool horror film from last year. And then we have John Carpenter's Vampires. Now, John Carpenter's Vampires has been released a number of times. It's been released. Oh, gee, let me take a gander here. I know Indicators put it out. I remember um, Twilight Time had put it out. John Carpenter's Vampires. Um, oh, well, maybe not. Maybe not. Hold on. Yeah, so John Carpenter's Vampires is getting a 4K UHD release. Maybe I'll just put in the title Vampires. Hold on. Ah, here it is. So yeah, it's gotten a regular collector's edition Scream Factory, Shout Factory release in 2019. So this is the upgrade to that. And then it did have a Twilight Time release back in 2015. That's of course long sold out and out of print. And then it got an Indicator release back in 2019 as well. And it looks like it's gotten some other releases in the UK too. But this is going to be a 4K of it, a 4K of the Shout Factory / Scream Factory release, and that's coming out in January. Yep, January. Let me go back here. So we are getting. Actually, let me do this one here. So the movie Sanctum, which came out in 2011, not a well reviewed film, not a well liked film, is getting a 4K release as well. I'm not spending too much time on going over the plots of these, just because I feel like people have either seen these movies or they're kind of not as interesting. For example, like Sanctum, I don't have any real interest in. John Carpenter's Vampires, I do, but I know that people have seen that before. And it's a John Carpenter film. I don't need to explain myself. You know what I mean? Just if it's John Carpenter, it's at least worth a watch. It's at least worth a watch. But what is also worth a watch is we are getting another Shaw Brothers Classics box set from Shout Factory / Shout Factory, or Shout Studios, however you want to refer to them. This is volume 5. 5. 5. They're outpacing Arrow. I can tell you that. Arrow is coming out with their volume 3 this month. I believe it's this month. So get ready for that. That's coming out, and then we've got this box set coming out here. Yeah, I can understand that, Adam. Demeter was bland. Adam Schofield says that. And I can also say good concept, but didn't do it for me. I can understand that as well. You can only stretch that premise so far, and stretching it into an hour and a half, 2 hour movie is pretty stretching it pretty thin. You know what I mean? He's stretching it pretty thin. It's a cool concept, like you said. It's a cool concept. Although I do hear that the Nosferatu film that's coming out, the Robert Eggers film, is fantastic. I've been seeing people have been seeing early screenings of that now, and I hear it's fantastic. Not too surprising because Robert Eggers is a damn good director. He's a fantastic director. So people be on the lookout for that. It's coming out soon. Let's see where was I? Oh yeah. So the 5th box set of Shout Factory Shaw Brothers films. This is a box set of how many films? 11 movies. 11 movies, which is an odd number. I don't know if people who like odd versus even numbers, but we have The Silent Swordsman, Rape of the Sword, Vengeance is a Golden Blade, The Fastest Sword, Twin Blades of Doom, 12 Deadly Coins, A Taste of Cold Steel, The Iron Buddha, The Jade-Faced Assassin, Mission Impossible, not the Tom Cruise Mission Impossible, and then we have 6 Assassins. And these films, it looks like they range from 1967 to 1971. I will truthfully tell you all, I do not have any of the other box sets yet. Partly because I've kind of concentrated on getting the Arrow ones, and then also getting other Shaw Brothers stuff from other places, but also because their box sets are rather expensive. By expensive, I mean I haven't seen them go like below $100, typically. And Shout for me for years has always been slightly too expensive for the stuff they put out. I've been saying this going back to their Blu-ray, just Blu-ray days, where I thought their Blu-rays were a little expensive, and to this day they kind of still are. I think the 4Ks are a little expensive, so you got to find them when the sales are happening. You got to find them in places that are selling them for cheap or whatnot, or whatever the case may be. And these Shaw Brothers boxes, although I do want them, because they're putting in films that are that they're putting in films that aren't available in the other sets, the Arrow sets, because they're both Region A. So therefore, uh, you can kind of get a whole big collection of Shaw Brothers stuff if you combine all the box sets from Shout and the box sets and other releases from overseas. You can get yourself a lot of Shaw Brothers stuff right now, as well as Golden Harvest. I mentioned on here that Shout is coming out with their Golden Harvest box sets now as well, and plus you can get Golden Harvest stuff overseas from like Arrow and Eureka and 88 Films and all these people. You can get yourself a nice martial arts collection now more than ever before. So yeah, it's really cool stuff. And Adam, you are right. It is Murnau versus Herzog versus Eggers. People are going to be discussing that when that movie comes out. I think that you're going to get a lot of people going back and watching the Werner Herzog film for the first time, because I don't think a lot of people have seen it. I've seen it, and I know probably many other horror enthusiasts have seen it. The one with Klaus Kinski, as the one with Klaus Kinski, it's good. I think it's good. What's interesting is that it's different from the one from the silent era. And I think this one could perhaps be an amalgamation of the silent era one and the Werner Herzog one. I feel like Robert Eggers can pull that off. And I'm basing that off of knowing absolutely nothing about how his version is going to look. All I know is the silent one and the one by Werner Herzog. Uh, so it could be neither of that. It could be neither of that, but I trust Robert Eggers most definitely. Most definitely. So let's see. That is it from Shout Factory. We've got their box set. We've got John Carpenter's Vampires. We've got what was the other thing I talked about? The Last Voyage of the Demeter, and then Sanctum. Let's get rid of that. See what are we doing on time? Okay, we're about 2 hours in. That makes sense because of the little delay we had there. Let me go quickly over to the BFI, because the BFI is doing some awesome stuff. Now, where did I see the BFI stuff? Let me go quickly over to. Hold on, I'm losing my tabs here. I'm losing my mind. I want to check to see if there is So the BFI is putting on some interesting things. I want to see if there isn't. Okay, so I got to go to their Facebook page, or I could go to their website. But just for time's sake, let me go over to their Facebook page and then scroll down in a madcap run to try to find out their release slate. So I know what they have released. I just want to get some details on it for you guys here. Let's see. Scrolling way too far down. That's what I'm doing, like an idiot. So there is that. So they're putting out some Akira Kurosawa stuff, but they're also putting out some other things. So let me list the stuff off, and then we'll get into them a little bit. So, if you are a fan of us, that we have a Facebook group, and in the Facebook group a while ago, I posted that Guillermo del Toro tweeted out that he was working on 4K versions of some of his older films, like Mimic and Cronos. And the BFI is putting out a 4K UHD of Cronos now. So that leads me to believe we're going to get a 4K UHD release of Cronos here in the US at some point. I think Criterion may do it because Criterion put out the Blu-ray. I have it in my collection over on my shelf, and they seem to be working very close with Guillermo del Toro when it comes to putting his movies out in 4K, at least here so far. For example, The Shape of Water is coming out this month in 4K. That's happening. They unfortunately, Pan's Labyrinth, I don't think they've done that. Pan's Labyrinth got a 4K release on its own, separately from Criterion, so I don't know what the status of that is. But I can tell you, Cronos is getting a release from the BFI. That's really awesome. And then we've got a Chantel Akerman Blu-ray box set, Volume 1, 1967 to 1978. And then we've got High and Low, Akira Kurosawa. I believe this has got to be a 4K UHD. Hold on. Actually, let me actually get some details on these. Like I said, High and Low. Actually, I think it's just a Blu-ray. Yeah. So High and Low is just a Blu-ray, but let me make sure I'm not crazy on that. They never make this stuff like plain as, I'm so freaking annoyed. I'm so annoyed. So, yeah, High and Low is getting a Blu-ray release from the BFI in January. I thought it was a 4K, but I guess not. And of course, yeah, that's not helpful. Of course not. So let me go over to where I was before. So we've got High and Low, the Akira Kurosawa film. We have Stray Dog. Stray Dog is getting a Blu-ray release finally. Finally, this thing has been stuck in DVD land forever. This is a great Akira Kurosawa film, starring Toshiro Mifune as well. Yeah, it's a masterful mix of film noir and police thriller set on the sweltering mean streets of occupied Tokyo. When rookie detective Murakami, Toshiro Mifune, has his pistol stolen from his pocket while on a bus, his frantic attempts to track down the thief leads him to an illegal weapons market in the Tokyo underworld. But the gun has already passed from pickpocket to a young gangster, and Murakami's gun is identified as the weapon in a shooting of a woman. So we're talking layers here. Great film. It's a really great film. It's only been on DVD from Criterion. From a movie came out in 1949, starring Toshiro Mifune. Really good film. I think it's the film he did after Rashomon. I should probably check up on that. I'm just spinning game here. Let's see, Akira Kurosawa. I need a like a fact checker. I need somebody who's like quick with a computer and can just fact check me in real time. Because I say a lot of things and I hope it's true. And I have to fact check myself in real time. Because if I don't, it bothers me, and I hate giving out wrong information to people. So let's see. No, Rashomon came out after. Rashomon came out in 1950. Stray Dog came out in 1949. And Scandal also came out in 1950 as well. Yeah, so this would be after he did Drunken Angel and then a bunch of other films. Okay. But Stray Dog, I've been wanting Stray Dog in HD for many, many years. Yeah, that's another thing, Adam, you're right. BFI websites aren't great. Some websites are good, some websites are not. Some websites give you all of the information, some give you less information. Usually I go to blu-ray.com and they give you everything. Sometimes they don't, especially for stuff from like the BFI. They really, there's no list of everything that was announced. And then their Facebook page will tell you everything that was announced, but won't tell me any details about each thing. You know what I mean? So I've got to like bounce around for it, and then I'm doing it midstream. So, and I don't want to have like these spots of me just not talking and just scrolling on screen. Nobody wants to listen to listen or watch that. But you do what you can do. So they're coming out with a 4K UHD of Yojimbo and Sanjuro. Criterion is doing that already, so get whichever one you want. And then they're also coming out with a Blu-ray of a movie called All We Imagine as Light. Um, let's see, there is more details on each of these, but you got to go over to the BFI website. Even if you go over to the BFI website, they don't have everything there. I'm just curious of what Cronos is going to have. Let's see, extras. Oh my goodness. I clicked on the tab that had extras and it opened up and a whole list of things just dropped down. It's a full tilt boogie of extras here. We've got an introduction by Del Toro that's 34 minutes long. My goodness, I think it's a conversation with somebody. Yeah. Oh, this is a loaded release. Holy heck. I'm not going to go through everything here, but we have a lot of interviews here with Del Toro and with other people. Um, yeah, we've got a lot of stuff, archival stuff as well. So yeah, that looks like a really good release. But I would wait to see if we're gonna get one here in the US. If you are a US buyer, if you're over in the UK, you buy the BFI stuff. It doesn't really affect me at all. The Chantel Akerman box set. I'm fascinated with this because we haven't gotten a lot of Chantel Akerman in HD. We've gotten a Chantel Akerman. Actually, that's not true. I'm lying. There's a Chantal Akerman box set that just got released by Criterion. I'm losing my marbles here. Um, yeah, let me go over to the Criterion site and look up because I keep forgetting that this box set exists because I never see anybody talk about it. Yeah, it's called Chantal Akerman Masterpieces. Yeah, there's Chantal Akerman Masterpieces 1968 to 1978. Um, and many of the films in this box set from Criterion are in the BFI box set. Just a quick comparison here. Let me see if I can line these up properly. Okay. Yeah, it comes out with it looks like right off the bat, there's an extra film in the BFI set called Examen d'entre from 1967. That won't be. Yeah, that's not in the Criterion set. Let's see. Saute ma vie. See. So the films in the BFI set: Examen d'entre, Sainte-Mobile, L'Enfant en mer où je joue, Hotel Monterey, La Chambre, um, Hanging Out Yonkers. It says Le 1 in 5/8, Je tu il elle, Jean Dillman, 23 Croix de Commerce, 1080 Brussels. We know that's on Criterion Blu-ray already. News from Home, and then Le Rendezvous d'Anna. Diana from 1978. Um, yeah, so some of these people probably already have in their collections here. I'm just looking quickly over at yeah, it's the same. It's the same movies in the Criterion box set, except for that first one that I talked about. That is, Examen d'entre from '67. And extras, the side by side comparison is going to be. Hold on. Just because the Criterion one doesn't have much in the way of extras. Actually, this doesn't have much in the way of extras either. Let's see. Auteur de genre. So I'm just looking at the extras really quickly. It looks like the BFI does have some. Actually, no. Hold on now. They may have the same extras. Yeah, they may have the same extras, guys. It's really close. I'm doing a quick side by side comparison. It's very, very close. That actually reminds me, it's a set that I've been wanting to get from Criterion for a while, and maybe I'll get it during the current sale. Sorry to just take that. I just had to do that for my own thing. Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Adam. There was a Criterion. That's interesting. The Criterion's only 3 discs? It is only 3 discs. Wow. Yeah, the BFI set is 5 discs. That's something to note. That's something to note. The BFI is 5 discs. The Criterion is 3 discs. So that's a lot of not a lot of compression because I don't think these films are rather long. Um, like for example, I think La Chambre is like yeah, La Chambre is an 11-minute short film. I've seen some of these actually on on the Criterion channel. I watched a bunch of these. And like Hotel Monterey is 62 minutes long. These aren't super long films, so I wouldn't be too concerned with compression issues. Yeah. Like let's see. I don't think any of these films are longer than an hour. Like Je tu il maybe the longest film at 86 minutes. I think that's the longest film. Actually, no, Jean Dielman is the longest movie. Sorry, I know. Now that I think about it, no, that movie's 201 minutes. So that probably has its own disc. There's no way they put this. They didn't put this on its own disc. Even at 201 minutes, that's a lot to ask for a 50 gigabyte Blu-ray disc to hold. That's a lot to ask. I was trying to see what was on each disc. I would have to go to. Let's see. I don't know. I'm going down this rabbit hole here. I need someone to like stop me soon because I'm going down an investigative rabbit hole that I would do in my own time, where I would like see how many movies are. Oh, it does tell you. So on the Criterion disc, on the Criterion set. That's only 3 discs. The first disc has 2 movies. The second disc has. Let's see. Yeah, that's the Jean Dielman. This is the second disc. Okay. Out there. They put that movie at 201 minutes on 1 disc along with an hour-long documentary. That disc must be gasping for air. Because that's 4 hours of content? That's asking a lot for one. And then there's another 20-minute special feature, and then another 20-minute special feature on top of that. It's an extra 40 minutes. You're asking a disc to do about 4 hours and 40 minutes of HD quality on 150 gigabyte disc, unless it's a larger disc. I'm sorry. This is the stuff that I get into on my own, and I'm now making you guys listen to me do my inner thoughts outward. So, anywho, you can get the BFI set that's 5 discs, or you can get the Criterion set that's 3 discs, and you're gonna kind of get the same special features, but the BFI set has the movie spread over more discs, and it has one more movie that the Criterion set does not. I thought I would mention all of that here on the fly. Um, yeah, yeah, I didn't think of the time difference there, Adam. Thank you for telling me. Adam says it's 4 a.m. here in London, but nice to have a chat. Um, it's coincidence that you mentioned that. My dad and my brother are going to be taking a trip to London in May of 2025. So coincidentally they're going to be making a trip there. They've actually already booked their trip this last week. So that's where they're going. They want to get uh, tickets to the Arsenal game, but I don't know if that's going to be even possible at that point. And that point in the English Premier League season is towards the end, and it's going to be like impossible to get tickets. But they're going to try. They're going to try. Good luck to them doing that. Um, yeah, Criterion crunches it again. I kind of feel you on that one. I kind of feel you on that one. That's 4 hours of HD content on one 50 gigabyte disc. That's a lot. That's a lot. They didn't even do like they split up. Yeah, they split up movies at that point. Yeah, expensive. Yeah, they were looking at tickets, Adam, and it was like a lot of money for the Arsenal game. My brother's a big Arsenal fan, uh, so he wanted to go to a game while they're there. Um, the last time they were in Europe, they went to a Benfica Newcastle game in Lisbon, I think, and now they wanted to go see an English Premier League game actually, in England. But yeah, I think you have to plan for that stuff like way ahead, way ahead. Um, but anyway, you just mentioned London, so that made me think of that. That made me think of that. But speaking of which, let's move on from the BFI because we've been stuck on them for too long. Because I mentioned all the movies that they're going to be coming out with. Yojimbo Sanjuro, the Chantel Akerman box set, Volume 1, 1967 to 1978. Cronos, the Guillermo del Toro film. Stray Dog, the Akira Kurosawa film. High and Low. I do want to make special mention Stray Dog and High and Low are just Blu-ray releases, not 4K releases. Sanjuro and Yojimbo are the 4K releases. Criterion's already announced that they're doing theirs here. And the Chantal Akerman set is a Blu-ray release. And Cronos is 4K. So let's move on from the BFI because we spent way too much time on that. Let's see. I'm going to mention these really quickly, but then I kind of want to move on. I don't want to spend too much time on them because we're already over 2 hours into this. 88 Films has their January releases: Story of a Cloistered Nun, The Haunted House of Horror, Rouge, which is the Stanley Kwan film, Love Unto Waste, and then Love and Crime. I want to say, hold on, let me go to Letterbox for a moment here because I had them saved in my watch list. I didn't get to see any of these, unfortunately. It just kind of ran out of time. Love Unto Wastes is another Stanley Kwan film. So is Rouge. Rouge I talked about here. That's the Criterion release that the heck I saw it at the sale. I saw it at the last sale. So Rouge is an interesting film. If you haven't seen the movie Rouge, look it up. It's about two lovers who decide to they have like a suicide pact together because it's kind of a Romeo and Juliet story where they're from two different levels of society and they can't be together, but they want to be together forever. One goes through with it, but the other doesn't. And then I think the ghost of the other one haunts the other one. I don't want to say anything more about that. I talked about it in depth when it was announced. Love Unto Waste, I have not seen. Says four young people spend their time living the wildlife until one of them is brutally murdered in a burglary. The survivors come under the scrutiny of an eccentric cop, and their underlying fears and regrets slowly but surely emerge. This is streaming on the Criterion channel right now. I really want to see this. That sounds very interesting. But I won't talk. I'll move on from the others as well. I just want to mention that. I'll move on from that. Where was I? Let's see. Oh, there's that. Let me get rid of that. Wow, this is not helpful. Oh, there's this movie being released by Second Run. A British label, Second Run, is preparing a Blu-ray release of Vaclav Voracek's Three Wishes for Cinderella, starring Libus Safrakanova, Pavel Trevishnek, Carola Braunbach, Rolf Hopp, and Karen Lesch. The release is scheduled to arrive on the market on December 16th. I mention this because I bring up Second Run a few times. It's a British label that puts out a lot of Eastern European films, and so I wanted to mention them. And this is a adaptation of the classic Cinderella story. Description: Vaclav Vloracek's 1973 reworking of the classic Cinderella is one of the most beloved films in all Central Europe cinema. I think this is a Czech film. I believe, yeah, it's a Czech film. Um, it says a delightful and unconventional Three Wishes for Cinderella places the familiar fairy tale into a wintry setting with down to earth characters and a feisty, rebellious Cinderella. Oh, that's kind of cool. Um, it says a perennial favorite on television throughout Europe, including as a dubbed BBC serial in the 70s, Three Wishes for Cinderella continues to charm with its magic and wonder. 4K restoration by the Czech National Film Archive. Oh, this is what I want to mention specifically. An expansive filmed appreciation by writer, producer, and film historian Michael Brook. Our buddy Michael Brook, who we've had here on Chasing Labels in the past. He showed up for our 100th episode special that we had when we brought back a bunch of people who had been on previously. We brought back Michael Brook. He works a lot with Indicator with a lot of their releases, but he's produced things in other places as well, like this special feature. And then we've got a Cinderella, an early Czech silent film version of the classic tale directed by Josef Kokeisel. And then A Little Shoe from 1937, a short animated Czech film by Yuri Friedrich. Booklet featured an expansive essay by author and film historian Tim Lucas. So I thought I would mention that. That's a nice little release here of a film I've never seen. I also want to mention that Neon Eagle is putting out a new film. Neon Eagle is the label by our buddy Jared Honor, who works over at Mondo Macabro. But he has his own label in Neon Eagle. It's called the movie I Want to Get Even. It's a 1980s kind of action B-ish movie. It says, I Want to Get Even is pure exploitation, pure trash through and through. The only thing uglier than the early 80s fashions on display in the films is the film's sexual politics. Truly the sleaziest film made in the heyday of the Indonesian exploitation explosion, and Neon Eagle Video could not be more thrilled to bring it to the US home video for the first time since the VHS era. Warning, this film is not for the faint of heart or easily offended. You can find this movie floating around on the internet in VHS quality. Yeah, it's an Indonesian film. It looks so rough. I found it and I watched it for a few minutes and it was in such a rough condition that I was like, I can't. I gotta watch something else. But Neon Eagle is putting this out. It's over on diabolicdvd.com if you want to check out that stuff, as well as the other Neon Eagle releases, as well as the stuff that's going on with Deaf Crocodile. They're all over on diabolicdvd.com. Thought I'd mention that really quickly. I'm just kind of moving a little quicker now because I still have to get to Vinegar Syndrome. That's going to be the next thing I want to talk about. But quickly here, Severin Films. Severin Films is putting out their Black Friday titles. It's being slowly revealed. First one that was revealed today is Jean-Pierre Jeunet's Delicatessen. Delicatessen has not been released on Blu-ray here in the United States in Region A land since 2010 by Lionsgate. So this is a much highly anticipated release over here. Studio Canal put out a 4K UHD release of this movie last year in the UK. So it's been available. But this is the North American UHD premiere 3-disc collector's edition, 6 hours of special features. Yeah, the first disc is a Blu-ray, second disc. The first disc is going to be the UHD commentary with director Jean-Pierre Jeunet. Second disc is going to be a Blu-ray, Jean-Pierre Jeunet, that has the commentary on there, interview with co-directors Jeunet and Mark Caro. Fine Cook Meats, the making of Delicatessen. And then we've got Copain's Comme Cochons, interview with co-director Mark Caro. The Tale of Terry Gilliam presents Delicatessen, interview with Terry Gilliam. What's interesting is that Jean-Pierre Jeunet's films remind me of Terry Gilliam films. That's kind of interesting. Then disc 2 is all special features. Main course piece is a retrospective Take Your Pig interview with actor Jean-Claude Dreyfus, archival interviews with cast, crew, and critics. Jean-Pierre Jeunet archives. Le Bunker de la Dernière Rafale, short film by Jean-Pierre Jeunet and Marc Caro. Then there's a booklet by Claire Donner of the Miskatonic Institute of Horror Studies. I saw Delicatessen many years ago. I haven't seen it in so long, but this is something that I definitely want to check out. This will probably be available during their Black Friday sale, I assume, because I don't think it's available on their site yet. But what is available to pre-order right now is their Russ Meyer films. You can get there's a super bundle, and then I think there was like an ultimate bundle. I think the ultimate bundle is out of stock, and super bundle I'm not quite sure. But you can get all the Russ Meyer films now. Vixen, Super Vixens, and what's the third film? It's Beneath the Valley of the Ultra Vixens. Yeah, and they're all coming out in 4K. They're all coming out with special features. Um, the um, the various bundles contain extra goodies and stuff like that. Go to severnfilms.com and you will see. The but this item, hold on. This item is a pre-order with a wide release date of January 28th. Yeah, so these are coming out in January. Um, Let me go check. Yeah, Delicatessen not available to pre-order yet. Just want to make sure that one. Oh, I didn't mention Haunted House of Horrors. You're right. By 88. You're right. Thank you, Adam. Let me go back to 88 for a second. So Haunted House of Horror is um let me go check. Is a film from the late 60s actually. Yeah, so Haunted House of Horror, it's getting a limited edition release. Yeah, it's from 1969. Coming out January 20th. A group of 60s teenagers bored with the party they're at drive out to a deserted old mansion, but their laughter turns to fear when one of them is killed in a frenzied knife attack. Another of them persuades the rest that they should solve the murder themselves rather than go to the police. Not surprisingly, opening the way to further carnage. Frankie Avalon is in the movie. Um, yeah, it's directed by Michael Armstrong, 1969. Uh, Once again, people in the wrong place at the wrong time. It sounds like a Scooby Doo episode gone horrifically bad. Horrifically bad. Thank you for mentioning that. Let me see what it's got in the way of special features. Let's see. Show me. Yes, here we go. Special features. It's got an audio commentary by film critics Kim Newman and Sean Hogan, audio commentary by film journalists Troy Haworth and Nathaniel Thompson, the making of the Haunted House of Horror, the house, and then has House of Horrors, Michael Armstrong on the Haunted House of Horror, helping to cut the Haunted House of Horror, and then it says a party to the Haunted House of Horror, and then a Haunted House of Horror trailer, Horror House trailer, limited edition picture booklet coming along with it as well. Interesting, starring Frankie Avalon. Adam says Haunted House of Horror is not a good film, but fun if you're into the period detail of the late 60s era. I like it anyway. And then we've got, haha, that's a good summation. I think he was talking about my Scooby Doo reference. He's talking about my Scooby Doo reference. So yeah, that was the 88 films. And where else did I go after that? Let's see, I did that. Okay, oh, Oscilloscope. Oscilloscope has a movie called I Think About Dying. It's called Sometimes I Think About Dying. a melancholic film to say the least. Um, this is coming out December 17th, starring Daisy Ridley. Um, it's starring Daisy Ridley, Parvish Chena, Marsha DeBonis, Brittany O'Grady, and Brie Elrod. Yeah, it's coming out December 17th. Description: Lost on the dreary Oregon coast, Fran finds solace in her office cubicle, listening to the constant hum of office mates and occasional daydreaming to pass the time. She is ghosting through life, unable to pop her bubble of isolation. When a friendly new coworker, Robert, persistently tries to connect with her, though it goes against every fiber of her being, she may have to give this guy a chance. Um, this is a beautiful, slow, melancholic, incredibly internalized film. You've got this woman who is incredibly introverted and who kind of drifts in the background when it comes to life. When it comes to social interactions, she's never really engaging. Although she tries to go to like social gatherings and things like that, but it's really almost begrudgingly. Like she's doing it out of a sense of trying to fit in, of trying to be sociable, and it goes against, like this description said, every fiber of her being. I can relate to this film on every level. I am incredibly introverted. Um, yeah, I don't like to socialize at all with a lot of people, and going places and being at social events and social occasions is a worst nightmare of mine. It really is. And as I'm getting older, it's becoming more and more difficult to do for me personally. So I felt very personally attached to this film. Like I said, it is rather melancholic and it is incredibly not for everyone. Not for everyone if you can't relate to it on a personal level. There's an audio commentary here as a special feature, and there's outtakes, and that's it. That's it. Um, it's it's an interesting film. I heard about it when it came out, but I hadn't seen it up until now. And I think that's it for. Oh, actually, nope. There's one released here. It's called Apache Rifles uh, slash Panhandle. It's a Kit Parker Films release, and I wanted to mention it because Apache Rifles is like a western, and Panhandle is a different type of movie. Let me just get these real quick out of the way. So much to talk about. So much to talk about. Um, and Kit Parker is a company that doesn't get a lot of mention when it comes to their releases because they don't do a lot. Frankly, they don't do a lot. They're kind of like Flickr Alley, but kind of a lesser Flickr Alley in terms of what they do and the amount of releases they put out and the quality of their releases and stuff like that. But they're still good. So Apache Rifles, a young cavalry officer is assigned the job of bringing in a band of Apaches who have been terrorizing the countryside. And this captain of this cavalry, and this I think this is post Civil War, is portrayed by Audie Murphy. Audie Murphy, who was the World War II war hero who then became an actor, and he was in many many movies, mostly westerns, mostly these types of cavalry films and army films and things like that. He's good in the movie. He's good in the movie. Of course, the movie is incredibly, non-politically correct, portraying indigenous Native American people in a negative light and all of that stuff. But that's that film, and then there's the film called Panhandle. So this is a double feature. This is a double feature. This Panhandle is from 1948, starring Rod Cameron. It says an ex gunslinger woos two women while avenging his brother, victim of a crooked gambler. So this guy is a former sheriff, and I think he turned into a gunfighter, and he's been wanted by the police for many many years, or by the law for many many years. I think he escaped down to Mexico, and then he gets word that his brother has been killed. His brother was a newspaper man, and I guess his brother got caught up in exposing some people that were doing nefarious things and got himself killed. So he comes back to town, where he's wanted, to basically take revenge for his brother. That's the movie. Um, yeah. So that's that really quickly. Now let's move to Vinegar Syndrome. Let's get to Vinegar Syndrome. So Vinegar Syndrome had their release announcements on November 1st. They had quite a slew of releases, and it's quite a good slate of releases. I'm just closing out some tabs here so my computer doesn't overheat. We're not talking about these anymore. Closing out all of that. Um, yep, stream is still going. So let's move into, like I said, let's move into Vinegar Syndrome. So Vinegar Syndrome proper here, we had some releases from their VSU line, their Vinegar